Our final speaker tonight is a Nigerian-born artist, storyteller, and community organizer. He discovered his niche for art and performing after a few years studying to be an engineer. A musician now working on his 5th solo album, a rapper, and an independent filmmaker, please welcome Daniel Oyinloye with his story, My Love for Rainy Days.
Probably one of the first times I heard my name, I'm like, yes, that's me. Because it's always, yeah. My love for rainy days. You see, a couple weeks ago, we were supposed to have this event. And I thought I was ready for it. But something happened that day. It was rain. It was very bad rain that it was canceled. And I realized how unready I was for it. And so I don't know if that explains why I chose that title, but it does to me. My love for rainy days. I have capsuled to be the rap that is my success story. Now, some of you might know I do some rapping. I do put some words together. Some of them rhyme and some don't. And in the cause of that, I make music. And I love to make music. But more generally, I love to tell stories. Stories, I believe, is a way we get to really to not only transmit or to pass down knowledge, but it's also just a way to live a sense of who we are and our source, where we come from. And so stories, I believe, is the most powerful tool in the world today, and it's being used in different ways, through politics, through teaching, education, through whatever rule. It kind of revolves around storytelling to some aspect. So, literally, rap is what I do, and I believe that my love for rainy days is the rap. That is my success story. Now, rainy days, what does that mean? I was born in Nigeria, and, we had 2 seasons. One season is the dry season, and the other season is the rainy season. Now, here in the United States, in these parts, we have 4 seasons. We have the fall, we have the spring, we have the winter, and we have the summer. Now, I do not want to believe that every one of you in this room will love the winter and snow, just woke up one morning and really just loved it. And if you did, good luck to you. But I think you can relate to me when I say that, for me, growing up in a place where it was dry and it was wet, where you had 6 months where it was just rain. There was rain, some days cloudy and gloomy, and when it rained, it rained. You had the mud streets where you had to walk, and if you were walking to school that day, you take off your shoes and your socks because you don't want them wet. You fold up your pants if you're a senior in school because you wear trousers. If you're a junior, you wear shorts so you don't have to fold anything up. But you had to walk through the muddy waters to make it home. So there was some pain and stress that came with the raining season that you had to deal with. And for me, I can remember both. I can remember the good times and the bad times. I can remember the times we went outside in the rain just to play in the rain when our mom warned us so hard. Don't go play in the rain because you're asthmatic and you're going to get cold and you might get pneumonia. But you found us in the rain because we had such high and such energy from it. And so we had a lot of fun in the rain. And there were the other times when, yes, you had to come back from school and your clothes are wet and it's just soggy and it's depressing and it's sad. And when we think of rain, we think of all these emotions that is oftentimes on the negative end, right? So that's rain. But again, like I started my whole speech here, just a few weeks ago, we're supposed to have this event. And I thought I was ready. But there was rain, and I realized I wasn't ready yet. Now let's go to the rap part. We're going to be very literal with this talk. I try to be literal, yeah. And then sometimes, so that I don't want you guys to get caught up in misunderstanding, so I will try and be as clear as possible, because I talk a lot. Resourceful. I realize that the most things I've learned in my life, or the things that have given me the edge to learn, or the urgency to learn, comes into these acronyms. R-A-A-A-P. RAP. To be resourceful, first, you have to be able to understand that there is a source, right? And source, for me, in my personal life, I grew up in a family where my dad always taught me that there's much more to myself. That taught me that I came from something much bigger, taught me that I came from something much larger than myself. And for me, that has been the core of my motivation or the core of my understanding, what makes me comprehend a resource or something that could be resourceful. For example, you have a rope in the car, and you don't know what to do with the rope. You don't know what a rope is, and you just have that rope in the car. So somebody is stuck at a cliff, and they're trying to get out, and you're like, hold on, let me call 911, and you have a rope in the car. If you do not understand what that rope is used for, you can't necessarily help that person because you do not even know what the tools are. So when we throw around the word resource a lot, sometimes that's only based on perception. It's only based on the person who understands what the resource can be. So technically, just by knowing that, you understand a resource could be literally anything, even nothing. In the idea that if you understand the source, anything could be a resource. Maybe that's a little too deep. But we'll keep going. The only way to respect self is to also have respect for the source. And that's the way I was brought up. That's the way my dad taught me. And that's the way I hold on to that. Growing up in Nigeria, one of the challenges we had in where I grew up was electricity. It was hard to have constant electricity. Still to today, we struggle with having constant electricity. And I had a friend, his name was Oyinloye, and after school, he would stay back for a few hours with his friends, and they would get a board. My buddy here was talking about motherboard. I was like, back in the day. And they would get a little board, a motherboard, where they would solder diodes and nodes to it, and I didn't know what it meant, really, and they would just have fun soldering, and the teacher would give them the tools, and they would do it. So I joined them, and I'll stay after school and started soldering things. And I really wasn't that interested in electrical stuff. It would just look cool, and I thought it'd be cool, especially, the ladies and all that. But what I was more interested in was just my friend was really digging this stuff. He was a nerd in it, so I just hung out with him. So that friendship kind of got me hooked on this. But I started asking myself the question, okay, well, when I get home, there is no electricity sometimes, and it would be nice to stay up in my room sometimes and maybe just read something or chill, and maybe not with the lantern, because lanterns, you have gasoline in there, and you put on the light, and then you could read or you carry it around the house. That's how I grew up. Just at night, when they take the electricity, you turn on the lanterns. There's probably 2 or 3 in the house. One is in the living room. Dad is reading his newspaper. One takes to the room, and that's how it was. So I wanted to do my own thing. Now I'm electrically cool, so I wanted to create my own touchlight, flashlight. So I did it. I came to the group one day and said, well, why don't we make something we could use? Let's make flashlights. So Ian said, that shouldn't be too hard. Okay, obviously, I listened to the nerd. And by nerd, it's a good thing because that guy is making a lot of money now. But the idea is, and he said, okay, well, it's not that hard. What do we need? We need batteries, we need copper wire, and we need a bulb. Pretty much that's all it takes to make a flashlight. So it's cheap. We go to the market, we bought a bulb. It was very cheap. And we got a copper wire anywhere. You could cut a radio open, cut a wire off of it, rip it naked, that's it. We tape it to the battery, and that was that. And it lit up. So I took this little invention we just did, and I started playing with it. I loved design, but I did not call it design because I didn't know what it was. I was like, why did we just have a bare copper wire here and battery? So I started figuring a way to cup that into something without really making it a touchlight, but making it our own kind of touchlight. So I created a design for a new touchlight, which we all now had our own new invented touchlight. And now I went home, and at night when the electricity went off, I put my touchlight on, and my dad and everybody would look and like, what is that? I'm like, that's my touchlight. That was how it began. In that, I had to figure out what resource meant. Resource to me in this point was, there was a situation, there was not electricity, and I was not innovative in that. I just wanted to make things. I wanted to make things to be somewhat resourceful. And that was one of those examples. I could tell you more stories of times when we actually bought a generator, and the generator stopped working, and I wanted to watch a TV show, and I was so desperate that the next day, I had to fix the generator myself. And my dad came home and said, well, how did you get it working? I realized the oil wasn't getting to the engine, and we had to go, wherever the engine was, I had to find the wire. Sorry, someone help me fix that. I had to find the wire that went from the engine to where we poured the oil to figure out what was wrong. Then we realized it was clogged somewhere, and we pushed it through. What am I saying? I'm saying that most of these stories help reflect that I didn't need a particular tool or a thing to have resource. For me, my resource came from the idea that there was a situation, there was a rainy day, there was something that motivated me to want to push, to want me to do, to want me to design, to want me to create something I could use. Attentive is another word that is triggered when I think of learning. I had to learn to pay attention. Growing up in Nigeria, there was not much room to not pay attention. You went to school and you weren't paying attention, you get whooped. Yes, you get whooped in front of your classmates, you get embarrassed, you go home, you're trying to talk back to your parents. Oh, no, don't even try that one. You definitely get whooped too. So in all of that, some of you are like, oh, traumatic. That's okay. To this culture it is, to our culture it's not. It's just the way life is. And with that happening, you begin to learn certain things that sometimes you have to shut up, sometimes you have to listen, and sometimes you have to just observe. I believe attentiveness comes with camping out where you can observe the inevitable. And that is a pretty great thing to know as someone who personally in my life, when it came to learning, was very useful to me. I'm a musician, so I work with a producer here in town called Charles OBJ. He makes beats and all that cool stuff. So how I got into recording myself was actually just sitting down watching this guy. Every time we hung out at the studio, I sat down. They're there on the computer, they're doing something. I watched it, I listened. I didn't even have to ask questions. That's exactly how I learned to record myself. I didn't have to ask questions. I just watched them every time. So after recording for X amount of hours, for X amount of months and years, I learned how to record myself. Bought the tools, and I started recording myself. I became a musician, recording artist, all from being attentive. And I believe that attentiveness is something that we all have to understand that it's all based on time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get out there and talk and share, because we'll get to that. There's a time for everything, especially when you understand what you're trying to gain and learn in the process. So that's the second thing. Next thing is to be attentive. Now, most of this will sound very redundant because everyone who's spoken here tonight has spoken to everything I put up there. I'm like, yeah, we're all on the same page, awesome. So attentive, to be attentive is, again, the idea of failure comes into mind, but the way I see it is, if it was yours to have, it isn't temptation. And why I put it that way is because obviously tempt. I do wordplay all the time. But the idea is you have to try something that you know it was yours to try. Like, it's very, very hard line sometimes to figure out what that is, because sometimes in my life, people might make you feel like, oh, don't do that. That's wrong. That's not right. Why are you doing that? And many people will influence your choice because you feel like you shouldn't do that because no one else should do that. Now, everyone is working off of whatever code they live by. But the moment you decide not to do the thing that you were built to do, or to try the thing you know that really deep down inside your heart, it was meant for me to try this, you don't learn. You miss an opportunity of learning. And so for me, being attentive is realizing for yourself where you draw the line between temptation, doing the things that you shouldn't be doing, and the things that you should be doing. Some people might see it as crazy, some people might not, but only you would understand where that line really lies. So I had to learn to be attentive, and there's so many things I've been attentive in doing that some of my friends wouldn't really want to associate myself with doing. But I tried it, and some of those things I failed at. Failure is a part of that I said earlier, because when you try something and you fail, it doesn't mean that it's the end. I'll talk more about that later. The last thing on my list here is ask. Actually, not the last, second to the last, is to ask. Asking questions or asking for help is a great thing, or asking for favors, or asking for funds, or asking for whatever. Sometimes it's as simple as asking. Ask, A. When you ask for help, you just might get an A. That's just the way I see it. In college, when I started college, as they read my bio earlier, I started college with going for mechanical engineering at UMD. I love mechanical engineering, obviously, because of all the stories I just told you about growing up, and I was like, all this fun stuff, I love to do it. I've used some toys growing up. I love mechanical stuff, but I feel like life is just so vast that there's a lot of things I love, And it's like, a lot of things can make me happy. Literally, I could do a lot of things that makes me happy. I'm not just a one-person kind of guy, like a one-thing kind of guy. And I believe we all aren't just a one-person kind of people or a one-thing kind of people. We all we live in a vast reality, and the things we love sometimes resonates to one path, and maybe that's what it is, and it's good that we follow that. But if your calling is it's tied into a lot of different segments, you don't have to limit it through the way you learn either. Learn as much as you can to strengthen as much as you can, but it's good to focus on what's present in the moment. So at UMD, I wanted to be focused in mechanical engineering. That didn't work out very well because I failed all of my classes the first year. I got all Fs, literally all Fs. And then that's the first semester. Second semester, I got all Ds. I was like, that was an improvement. I had to retake most of these classes. Some of them were generals, like calculus. I had to pass calculus to even do anything else at this point. So calculus, I was struggling with. I didn't really care. Like, I was just like, okay, I went to class. I got the concepts, but I tried. I wasn't as disciplined. I wasted my time. And so I kept failing. And then that summer, I had to make a choice because they were going to kick me out of school. First year, you didn't do anything with your life. Might as well kick you out. Maybe UMD is not the best for you. And I had to come to a place in my life where I had to humble myself. And for the first time, I asked for help. I asked for help from the tutoring center. Tutor, I forgot her name. She changed my life because she began to teach me calculus in a very interesting way. And it resonated to your story too when you spoke earlier. And I realized I wasn't dumb. I wasn't that stupid. I just did not connect it the way it was being taught. But I was really good at calculus, to come to find out. I actually enjoyed calculus. And after that year of asking for help, that summer I took calculus and I got an A. And after I got an A, I tutored calculus at UMD years after. So that changed the way I started to think. So you start to realize that life isn't as difficult or as rainy sometimes if we ask, if we are attentive, if we take a chance, if we are paying attention, and if we are resourceful, understand our source and why we're here. With that being said, get into a place in your life where you could open up and ask for money. I asked my dad for 1,000 naira. 1,000 naira at the time was equivalent to 100 naira to $1. So meaning $10, so that you guys could get an idea. It's not a lot of money. I was young. I asked him for 1,000 naira to do a photography project. I wanted to take photos of people at church, and then the next Saturday, I would take the photos back to them, printed, all washed and stuff, and then sell it to them. It was a business initiative. It failed. I took photos, I did wash them, it just never made it back. And even when it made it back, sometimes I wouldn't sell it. I'm like, look at you, you look cute, just have it. So I was so bad at the business. So I failed at doing business. But I asked my dad for it was a lot of fear. I remember asking for that money, and the first time he didn't give it to me. But then I kept asking, and he gave it to me. And he gave me 1,000 naira. So sometimes you just got to ask. Sometimes you just got to ask for help. Sometimes you just got to open your mouth and say, how do you do it, Charles? You've been mixing music all day. How do you master the song? And he said, okay, maybe you try this or watch this YouTube video. And there's the answer. Today's world, Google is the best answer to everything. So, purpose, the big word purpose. This is one that many people make a lot of money doing speeches on. I tried to simplify it for myself, because I had to understand my purpose. I came to a place in my life. My last album called Dawn of Redemption, for me, it was trying to figure out what this means to me. What is my purpose? So as a turning point of my life, I lost my dad a couple years ago. It pushed me to a place in my mind where I had to start reflecting on my life, my presence, and what it means, and if I had to live, what that would also signify. So a few things I came to understand was, if you are going to pose, make sure it's yours. You know? That's like the literal, like, oh, that's the street version type thing. Like, if I'm actually going to have a swag in my walk, like, why will I copy someone else's walk? You know what I'm saying? It might as well be my walk. If I'm going to come here and speak to you, why should I have to copy how someone else did it? It might as well just be me. So purpose is first beginning to understand that if I'm even going to pose, if I'm going to make it look good, let it be mine. Okay, so even if you don't understand what it is for the rest of your life till you die, just let it be yours. That's the first step. So moving on, I had to go deeper. I figured identified with your source and realize your resource. Coconut. How many of you know coconut? Coconut. Okay. How many of you actually know what it looks like? Can you describe it to me? Someone says brown, someone says green. This man knows coconut. Those who said brown, you only see the coconut inside the coconut. The outside of the coconut is actually green. The inside is a bunch of haystacks stuff. Then when you cut all that stuff out, then you now have the brown little stuff. Then when you break the brown stuff, then you have the white stuff. Then when you break the white stuff, then you have the watery stuff. That little round coconut is one of my biggest mind-blowing ta-da moment of what resource really means. Identify with your source and realize your resource. If I was stuck in an island with coconut, I have a chance of survival. Because that coconut could be used for a lot of things. I could start fire with a coconut. I could drink water from a coconut. I could use the coconut shell for my plate. I could use the coconut shell for my knife. I could use the coconut shell to protect myself. I could use the coconut back to even figure out how to clothe certain parts of my body. That one coconut can do a whole bunch of things, but it's just a coconut. Now imagine how many things in your life today, all around your house, that you feel like you don't have enough things to live with, that you could use for so much more. That is where you start realizing that when you die and you leave this world, you live with nothing. You might as well just leave a coconut behind. That might help somebody else live. So why do I have to stack all these things for everybody else when all I need is a coconut? Not literally, but you get the idea. Sometimes you have to shut up and you have to ask yourself, you have to listen, observe, reflect on what is true about you. Like I said earlier, when failure reminds you of patience and success prompts you to tell a true story, then I think you're beginning to know your purpose. When you think of failure, like my brother said earlier, and when you think of failure, if all you think of is I failed, then you're still struggling with your purpose. But when you think of failure and you think, okay, maybe just patience. Maybe I need to be ready. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe it's not time. Then maybe you're getting closer to what it means. To me, that's what I believe. Success then, I think when success prompts you to tell something true, to tell a true story, to come here and do this Ignite Learning stuff, that to me is going closer to your purpose. When you can ask for help, when you know when to pray, when you know that it's too much for me right now, I can't do this anymore, I need a break. I got a nervous breakdown in 2013, and I quit my job at the little UMD. I left the city. I was in San Francisco for a little bit. Some of you might have known. But all that to me is, I had to just chill. I couldn't do it anymore. And for those who struggle with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and some people even struggle with schizophrenia, one thing I've come to realize is we have to understand that it's okay. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to say, okay, I can't do it right now. Doesn't mean you're a failure. It only means that rest is a part of the journey. And that's a part of what I learned in that process. When you believe, even with a reasonable doubt, sometimes it's about, oh, you have to believe with no reasonable doubt. No. Even if there's a logical, reasonable doubt, but you still believe that you are and that thing is your purpose, then I believe it might as well be. A couple of weeks ago, I started this whole thing with a couple of weeks ago. That was a rainy day. And Tammy had called and said the event was canceled. And I thought I was ready for this. This is the first time I'm doing a talk like this. I mean, I do rap, I do other stuff. I've never stood on a stage like this to tell you bits and pieces of my story. If I was to tell you my story, we'll be here for 3 days. But I decided not to do that entirely. I decided to tell you the pieces of my story that lets you, that communicates to you how I've learned and how I'm growing. I have not achieved a percentage of my learning that I believe that is even possible. I feel like I've not even learned much yet in life. And I am so grateful for that rainy day that happened a couple of weeks ago, because if not of that rainy day, what just happened right now wouldn't even have happened half as close to what it did. So that's why I love rainy days. The same reason why you love snowy days. The same reason why you play with snow. Not that it's always good or it's always great on your skin because it's so cold, but because after a while you just love it. And you just know it's always going to be there. It's just going to come next year. It's going to come next year. So why not? Okay, I love you already. So my rainy day has taught me much. I'll leave you with a few quotes. You do not need fancy tools to evolve. You need fancy tools to display your evolution in a world where fancy things hold value. You have no choice than to dream and be anxious. There's got to be something more exciting. Keep learning. My love for rainy days is the rap that is my success story. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was cold. It was cold, Mom. I had nowhere to go. I screamed in my tears, Mom. I had no one to call but you. Cause the trust got me screaming for you. We were in the rain, going insane, me and Sis shaking in pain. Kept thinking if you came, would you pull out the cane? Would you beat me cause I got out my lane? You always said life like a race. Don't fall, don't cry. Just stick to the pace. There are times in my life when I needed motivation. I was wrong for living, Mom. Then it came to my attention like the prodigal son. I was dripping up God's tears, wishing you would come, cause with you I had no fears. Next thing I remember was the smell of your hair. One kiss on my cheek saying, baby, I'm here. I feel safe in your arm, trust with no doubt, cause of my back in the day with you.